I have been the head butler at the Green family for 30 years, watching as Miss Molly, whom I raised with my own hands, is about to be replaced by an impostor. In the living room, the fake heiress was crying pitifully, and the master and mistress were convinced, preparing to put on a touching display of father-daughter affection. I laughed hysterically inside, but on the surface, I calmly set down my teacup, interrupting the farce with a crisp sound. I adjusted my gold-rimmed glasses and put on a professional fake smile. Sir, before getting too emotional, how about we do a paternity test? Suppressed sobs came from the living room. As the butler of the Green family for 30 years, I was all too familiar with this sound. Either the mistress was crying again over the master's scandals, or Miss Molly was upset over some trivial matter. However, the frequency of the tremolo in today's sobs was somewhat different, mainly. I'm not familiar with the people. Pushing open the living room door, the scene before me made me raise an eyebrow slightly. Sure enough, sitting on the sofa was a girl around 18 years old, wearing faded jeans and a cheap t-shirt, clutching a piece of emerald green jade tightly in her hand. Her tears fell like broken strings of pearls as she cried and said, "Mom, Dad, I really am your daughter, Mr." George's face turned deathly pale. Standing there in a daze as if struck by lightning, Mrs. Susan clutched her chest, gasping for breath as if she might faint at any moment. My gaze fell upon the jade pendant in the girl's hand. It was indeed the personal item that Mrs. had prepared for Miss Molly 18 years ago, which I had personally put on Miss Molly back then. This jade pendant was given to me by my grandmother. She said it's the only keepsake my mother left behind. The girl's voice trembled, each word spoken with perfect precision. Grandma said that when I was born, my swaddling clothes were embroidered with white jasmine flowers and a little rabbit. The lady suddenly stood up. Oh my goodness, I was the one who embroidered that by hand. The gentleman's hand was trembling. Kathy, are you really our daughter? I silently took note of the name in my heart. The girl nodded eagerly. Dad, my name is Kathy. I've been looking for you all these years. Just then, footsteps were heard coming from the stairs. Miss Molly slowly descended the stairs and froze completely upon seeing the scene in the living room. Molly, the lady's voice was filled with guilt. Kathy looked up at Molly, a flicker of triumph in her eyes, though an innocent smile played on her lips. Sister, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disrupt your life. Her words were spoken softly, but each one pierced Molly's heart like a knife. Molly's face turned as pale as paper, her body swaying unsteadily. No, it can't be, she murmured to herself. The triumph in Kathy's eyes grew more evident, though she feigned an innocent expression on the surface. Sister, don't be sad, I never meant to replace you, I just want to find my biological parents. I watched this drama unfold, feeling completely unmoved inside. It's a bit more creative than the plot from last time when Mr. Bai's first love returned from abroad, but still nothing special. The atmosphere in the living room grew increasingly oppressive. The gentleman held his head, saying in agony, 18 years, and my daughter has actually been living outside all this time. The lady sobbed uncontrollably. It's all my fault, it's all my fault. Molly stood there like an outsider, her eyes filled with confusion. Kathy stopped crying at the right moment and said in a tentative tone, Mom and Dad, if you don't believe me, I can leave. No, the gentleman suddenly looked up. You are my daughter, how can you leave? The lady also quickly said, Kathy, you've suffered, Mom is sorry. Watching this family sink into the whirlpool of a melodramatic ethical dilemma, I felt it was time for me to step in. Otherwise, this family would fall apart sooner or later without me. I gently placed the tea tray on the coffee table, producing a crisp sound. Everyone's gaze turned toward me. I cleared my throat, looking serious. Sir, madam, since this is such a serious matter, why not take a paternity test? Science is the most rigorous approach. It's better than making wild guesses. With that one sentence, the entire living room fell silent. Kathy's sobs caught in her throat, and her eyes flickered briefly, but soon, she regained her confidence. Great, of course I agree. She lifted her chin, looking completely unafraid. True gold fears no fire. I've been waiting for this day for 18 years. The gentleman nodded. Good, let's go get the appraisal done. Early the next morning, I arranged the trip to the appraisal center, in the car. Kathy kept fixing her hair the whole way, occasionally glancing at the rearview mirror. Will there be reporters later? She asked. I almost burst out laughing. These days, can a paternity test still make it to the trending list? However, I still maintained my professionalism as a butler. When we arrived at the testing center, The line was incredibly long. Kathy's face instantly fell. Why are there so many people? I silently calculated on the side. At this rate, we'd have to wait at least 2 hours. 10 minutes later, Kathy began to fidget restlessly. Do you know who I am? I'm the daughter of the Green family, she said to the woman in front of her. The woman turned around and gave her a disdainful look. Which Green family? Kathy choked. Another 10 minutes passed, and she completely lost it. She rushed straight to the window, slamming her hand on the counter. We're from the Green group. Can we cut in line? The staff member didn't even look up. Everyone has to wait in line. Even if the president came, do you know how big the Green group is? I don't know, but everyone has to wait in line. Kathy's face turned green. The husband and wife behind them had gradually expressions. I adjusted my glasses, feeling utterly speechless. This girl must have read too many novels. Finally, it was our turn. After the sampling, the staff said, the results will be out in a month. A month? Kathy's voice cracked. Can we expedite it? Even expedited, it will take half a month. Money is not a problem. The staff member finally looked up at her. It's not a matter of money, it's a matter of science. Kathy wanted to say something but was stopped by her husband. The lady had a soft heart and couldn't bear to let Kathy go back to suffer in that slum, so she allowed her to stay at the Greens' house for this month. On the first day of breakfast, she wore a light pink dress, clearly imitating Molly's outfit from the day before, but the effect. It was like the ugly woman trying to imitate a beauty's frown. Molly's outfit was elegant, while hers was overdone. Jane, please pour the juice for me, Kathy said to the servant. Jane paused for a moment, then did as she was told. Lisa, this bread is a bit cold. Could you warm it up? Lisa also did as she was told, but I could see the reluctance in the servant's eyes. They had been with the Green family for so many years and genuinely liked Molly. They truly disliked this suddenly appearing heiress, but they were just employees and had no choice but to go along with it on the surface. Kathy thought she was doing well and started pushing her luck. Molly, that's a nice bag you have. Is it a new model? She stared at Molly's limited edition bag. It's from last year, Molly replied nonchalantly. Can I take a look? Molly hesitated for a moment, but still handed it to her. Kathy took the bag, unable to put it down, and even wanted to carry it away directly. As the butler, I appeared just in time. Miss Lynn, before the appraisal results come out. This is still Miss Molly's personal item. Kathy blushed and reluctantly put down the bag. At lunchtime, she started performing again. When I was a child, my family was poor, and sometimes we could only afford one meal a day. As she spoke, her eyes turned red. One winter, I had a high fever, but my family couldn't afford medicine, so I had to tough it out. The wife listened with a pained heart. Kathy, it will never happen again. Kathy stole a glance at Molly and continued, seeing Molly so happy, I'm really envious. She's lived like a princess since she was a child, unlike me. Between the lines, she was implying that Molly didn't know how to appreciate what she had. The more Molly listened, the more upset she became, to the point where she couldn't even eat. I see it with my own eyes, and it pains my heart. This girl has always been soft-hearted since she was little and can't stand this kind of emotional blackmail. In the evening, I deliberately went to the kitchen and made Molly her favorite tiramisu. When I brought it to her room, she was lying on the desk, lost in thought, unhappy. I asked, Uncle Edward, am I very selfish? She lifted her head, her eyes red. Why do you say that? Kathy is right. I've never had to worry about food or clothing since I was young, so I truly don't understand her hardships. I sat down beside her and gently patted her head. Miss, true upbringing isn't something given by others. It's ingrained in one's character. What do you mean? Look at her. She's only been in this house for a few days and already she's ordering the servants around and coveting your things. But she said she's the real heiress. Even if she is, so what? Breeding is something accumulated over 18 years, not something a piece of paper can prove. Molly seemed lost in thought, and, I continued, she can't learn your elegance, just as a wildflower can't learn the nobility of a rose. Molly laughed through her tears. Uncle Edward, if she heard you say that, she'd be furious. Then let her be angry. The next day, Kathy indeed started a new performance. She noticed I was organizing Molly's wardrobe and immediately came over. These clothes are all so beautiful. Can I try them on? These were all custom made for Miss Molly. I'm afraid they wouldn't be suitable. I politely declined. Why wouldn't they be suitable? Aren't we the same size? Different body types, I said lightly. Kathy's face flushed red. She was indeed 5 centimeters shorter than Molly and a bit heavier. Then can I at least use this bag? She set her sights on Molly's new bag again. Miss Lynn, as I've said, before the appraisal results come out, you're just a servant. She finally dropped all pretense of civility. What right do you have to control me? I adjusted my gold-rimmed glasses, straightened my posture, and allowed a slight smile to curl at the corners of my mouth. It is my honor to serve Miss Molly. Kathy was so angry she stomped her feet, but there was nothing she could do about me. Hee hee hee, nah nah nah. The charity dinner hosted by the lady is scheduled for next Wednesday. She held Molly's hand, her eyes full of anticipation. Molly, this time you'll be the lead. Your design concept is so great. It's the perfect opportunity to showcase it to everyone. Molly nodded, a hint of nervousness on her face. I quietly noted down the arrangement. In situations like this, there's always someone who stirs up trouble. Sure enough, upon hearing the news, a flicker of jealousy flashed in Kathy's eyes. She pretended to ask casually, "Why, Molly, I can help too," the lady said gently. "Kathy, you've just arrived. Take some time to get familiar with the environment first. Molly has more experience with this kind of thing." Kathy bit her lip, her eyes welling up with tears, and said nothing more. But I saw the flash of malice in her eyes. In the following days, Molly was swamped with work. She had designed a children's education assistance program, complete with beautifully crafted design drafts, which she planned to present to the philanthropists at the banquet. Every evening, I would go to her room to check on her progress. "Uncle Edward, what do you think of this plan?" She spread out the design draft for me to see, her face full of an expression seeking approval. I looked it over carefully and nodded. "Very good, miss, but remember, in everything you do, you must have a plan B, a backup plan. In case something unexpected happens, there should always be a way to handle it," I said, picking up her design draft. "I'll make another copy of this and keep it safe with me." Molly smiled. "Uncle Edward, you're so thoughtful." On the evening of the banquet, Molly was wearing a long white dress, looking like a true lady from a respectable family. When she went to the room to get the design drafts, a sudden exclamation was heard. "Uncle Edward, Uncle Edward." I quickly walked into her room and saw her rummaging through boxes and cabinets looking for something. "What's wrong, miss? The design draft is gone. I clearly put it on the table, and now I can't find it." Her eyes were red, and her voice was choked with tears. I glanced around the room. The tabletop was indeed very clean. "Miss, don't worry." I pulled out an identical design draft from my inner pocket and handed it to her. "Miss Molly, always have a plan B for everything. That's what I taught you." She took the design draft, and her eyes instantly lit up. "Uncle Edward, you're truly my savior. Go ahead, miss, you will shine brightly tonight." The banquet hall was lavishly decorated in gold and splendor. Celebrities from all walks of life gathered, with the flashes of reporters' cameras going off one after another. Molly stood on the stage, confidently and gracefully presenting her charity proposal. Applause echoed from the audience, with pride evident on the faces of the gentleman and lady. I stood to the side, quietly observing the entire scene. Kathy sat in the corner, her face ashen. She probably thought her little scheme was flawless, waiting to see Molly make a fool of herself. Now that the plan has fallen through, I'm absolutely furious. After Molly's speech, the reporters gathered around her. "Miss Green, your design concept is truly amazing. This plan is sure to help many children." At that moment, Kathy suddenly stood up. She held a glass of red wine and walked toward Molly with a bright smile. "Congratulations, Molly." As she spoke, she accidentally slipped. The red wine glass flew straight toward Molly's white dress. If it splashed on her, Molly would be completely embarrassed tonight. I had been waiting for this moment all along. I've seen enough of these little tricks 30 years ago. I held the tray and walked over unhurriedly, just in time to catch the flying wine glass. Not a single drop of red wine spilled on Molly. I said to the still shaken Molly, "The floor is slippery, be careful." Then I casually glanced at Kathy, who had fallen on the floor. The people around immediately gathered. "Kathy, are you okay?" "Oh dear, the floor is indeed a bit slippery. Here, let me help you up." Kathy had no choice but to stand up and express her gratitude to those around her. Her eyes were fixed on me, filled with hatred, but I simply gave her a standard professional smile. "What does it mean to be professional? This is what you call professionalism? I'm going to annoy you to death." Naya Naya Naya. Kathy has been unusually quiet these past few days, so quiet that it feels a bit off to me. Logically speaking, A girl of her caliber should be thinking about stirring up trouble every day. But surprisingly, she actually stayed quiet for 2 days, eating her meals properly, going upstairs obediently, and pretending to be well-behaved. I checked through the home network security system, and wow, the little girl was searching for George's ex-girlfriend online, and she actually managed to find her. Tina, a college classmate of my husband, is said to be his first love. She returned from abroad once 3 years ago and nearly gave his wife a heart attack at the time. I remember that incident was handled quite interestingly. Kathy clearly felt she had uncovered some big secret and started sending anonymous text messages to Tina. George will be having coffee alone at the Starbucks headquarters building store tomorrow at 3 p.m. Back in the day when Tina herself made a comeback, I personally arranged for her and her current husband to fall in love at first sight, and even personally saw them off at the airport. I immediately changed the meeting location to the YTSPA Club. Then I sent a message to the lady, "Madam, your old friend Tina would like to see you today at 3 p.m. at YT. Madam replied quickly, "Okay, Uncle Edward." I can imagine Madam's expression right now. Probably that kind of, "here we go again," resignation. But Madam has always been magnanimous and wouldn't refuse to meet an old friend. At 3 in the afternoon, I drove Madam to YT, before getting out of the car. The lady specifically asked me, "Uncle Edward, what do you think she came back for this time?" "Madam, you're overthinking it." I adjusted my glasses and said, "Some people are just passing by, not everyone has an agenda." The lady nodded, picked up her bag, and entered the club. I waited in the car for 2 hours. When my wife came out, she looked much more relaxed. "Uncle Edward, you were right, she really was just passing by." After getting in the car, my wife still seemed a little embarrassed. We had a great conversation, and she even complimented me on how much more beautiful I've become over the years. The wife was already beautiful, by the way. She also mentioned that George has changed quite a bit over the years. He used to be so immature, but now he's actually capable of managing such a large company. The wife smiled and said, "I told her it's all because Uncle Edward managed things well." I didn't say anything, but in my heart, I thought, Tina must have come back this time specifically to see the wife. After all, back then, the relationship between the two of them was actually better than the one she had with her husband. When she returned home, her husband was already waiting in the living room. Judging by his expression, it was clear he had come back empty-handed from Starbucks. "Where did you go today, dear?" "I met with Tina," the wife said very naturally. "She came specifically to see me, and we talked for a long time." The husband's expression changed slightly. Is she doing well?" "She's doing great. She's already had her third child in response to the national policy." The wife glanced at her husband. "What about you? You sat at Starbucks for 2 hours this afternoon. What were you waiting for?" The husband's face instantly turned red. Enough, I already know." The wife waved her hand. "Someone sent Tina a message saying you were going to wait for her there, but Tina didn't go at all. She forwarded the message directly to me." At that, the husband was completely speechless. The wife patted her husband's shoulder and said, "Honey, we're not 20-year-old kids anymore. Don't let people make a fool of you." I silently tidied up the tea set on the side. The husband was thoroughly disciplined by his wife. I can take half the credit for this. I couldn't help but straighten my posture and adjust my gold-rimmed glasses. In the evening, I took a walk in the garden. Miss Molly was sitting on the swing, looking rather down. "Miss Molly, what's wrong, Uncle Edward? I always feel as if I can't do anything." Miss Molly looked up at me. "Even though Kathy is annoying, at least she dares to do something. What about me? I only know how to hide behind you." I walked over to her and gave the swing a push. "Miss Molly, do you know the character classifications in games?" Some people are born to be the main characters, while others are just background animations." I adjusted my glasses. "You don't need to worry about the actions of NPCs." Miss Molly laughed. "Uncle Edward, that's a strange analogy." "Not strange at all." I thought for a moment. "Right, let me tell you a story." "What story?" 5 years ago, a female celebrity tried to drug your father." Miss Molly widened her eyes. Really? She put drugs in the red wine, thinking that after your dad drank it, she could play the hero and save the beauty. And then I swapped the drugs with vitamin effervescent tablets ahead of time." I smiled. "Your dad was in especially high spirits that night, and when he got home, he insisted on talking to your mom about work for 3 hours." Miss Molly chuckled. "What about that actress? She waited in the private room all night." The next morning, when the waiter went in, she was still there waiting. Miss Molly laughed heartily. "Uncle Edward. You're so mean. I'm not being bad, I'm being professional." Seeing her laugh so happily warmed my heart as well. Without me, this family would fall apart sooner or later. Miss Molly looked at me with a serious expression. "With you here, I'm not afraid of anything." I felt a sense of relief. My efforts in nurturing the little cabbage hadn't been in vain. We chatted for a while longer in the garden. Miss Molly's mood had clearly improved a lot. Back in the room, I turned on the surveillance system. Kathy is scrolling through her phone in the room. Judging by her expression, she's clearly waiting for Tina's reply. Unfortunately, Tina is currently chatting with her wife on WeChat. The two of them have made plans to go for a beauty treatment together next time. I turned off the surveillance and got ready to rest. Tomorrow should be a new day. I wonder what tricks Kathy will come up with next. But it's alright, I have been working in this household for over 30 years. What kind of scene haven't I seen? White moonlight, stand-ins, drugging, fake pregnancies. Which time wasn't it me who had to clean up the mess? The work of a butler is truly filled with simple, unadorned joys. Tomorrow is the day the appraisal results will be announced. The atmosphere in the Green household was as tense as a drawn bowstring, and no one dared to speak lightly. During dinner, the master's hand trembled as he picked up his food. While the mistress spent the entire day in the prayer room, Miss Molly barely ate anything before returning to her room. Kathy remained quite composed, even taking the initiative to chat with the master and mistress, trying to ease the tension, but I could tell she was thinking fast, clearly hatching some kind of scheme. By 11:30 at night, the whole family had settled down to rest. I was in the butler's room organizing the next day's schedule when the phone on the desk suddenly lit up. It's the infrared alarm in the study. Someone has gone inside. I quietly walked to the door and saw a sneaky figure rummaging through something. That little girl Kathy just won't give up. She first rummaged through the bookshelf, then went to pull open the safe. When she found it locked, she started searching through the drawers. I watched with great interest as she scurried around the study like a hamster. She's probably trying to find the master's will to see how much of the family fortune she can get her hands on. What a pity, the will is with me. After all, I am the head butler of this household, and all of the master's important documents must be kept by me. Kathy struggled for almost an hour, panting and exhausted, but still found nothing. She stood in the middle of the study, looking around with unwillingness in her eyes. "I think it's about time. It's my turn to perform." Just as Kathy was about to leave, I appeared behind her like a ghost. "Ms. Lynn." Sleepwalking, my voice echoed in the night, carrying a hint of concern. "The night is chilly. Be careful not to catch a cold." Kathy was scared out of her wits. When she turned around and saw me, she let out a sharp scream. "Ah!" That scream woke up the entire Green family. Mr. and Mrs. Green rushed down from upstairs, and Miss Molly also came running out. "What's wrong? What happened?" the wife asked urgently. Kathy's face was deathly pale as she pointed at me, her lips trembling. He suddenly appeared behind me. I calmly adjusted the collar of my nightgown. "Sir, madam, Miss Lynn might be under too much stress and is sleepwalking a bit." I had just come out of my room to get some milk from the kitchen when I saw her standing in the study, staring blankly. The sir frowned, looking at Kathy, then at me. "Kathy, why are you in the study?" Kathy opened her mouth, clearly unable to come up with a reasonable explanation. I couldn't sleep, so I wanted to find a book to read." Her mother walked over sympathetically and patted her shoulder. "Child, no matter what the outcome is tomorrow, we will handle it properly. Go back to your room and rest for now. Don't put too much pressure on yourself." Kathy nodded reluctantly, but her eyes were filled with fear as she looked at me, as if she had seen something that shouldn't exist. She hurried upstairs, her footsteps trembling. The master and mistress also returned to their room. Before leaving, Miss Molly glanced at me, a question in her eyes, but she didn't speak. Once again, I was left alone in the study. I walked to the window and looked out at the night scenery. Alas, if it weren't for me, this family would have fallen apart long ago. The call from the appraisal center came at 10 o'clock in the morning. I answered the phone and told them I would personally go to collect the results. After hanging up, I looked at everyone in the living room. The husband and wife sat on the sofa, holding hands as if to bolster each other's courage. Miss Molly sat opposite them, her face pale and her hands tightly clenched. Kathy, on the other hand, appeared quite relaxed. She sat in the single sofa, her eyes gleaming with the confidence of victory. "Uncle Edward, are the results out?" His voice sounded a bit tense. Yes, I'll go get it right away. I picked up the car keys and headed toward the door. Kathy called out from behind. Thank you for your trouble, Edward. Her tone was full of pride. I didn't look back. An hour later, I returned home with the sealed report. The living room was filled with a tense atmosphere. Everyone is waiting for me. Kathy is already on the verge of tears. I can see her eyes are a bit red, probably from crying earlier in preparation for the emotional scene that's about to unfold. I've brought back the report. I walked to the center of the living room and raised the brown paper bag. The gentleman reached out his hand, but his fingers were trembling slightly. I'll read it. I broke the seal and took out the report inside. Kathy had already prepared her tears, with a barely concealed smile still playing at the corners of her mouth. I glanced at the contents of the report. Then I handed it to the gentleman. Sir, please take a look for yourself. The gentleman took the report. His hands trembling, he opened the report, his expression shifting from anticipation to shock. Then came disbelief. Finally, paleness. How is this possible? The gentleman's voice was very soft, as if he were talking to himself. What do you mean? How is that possible? Kathy grew a bit anxious. She stood up and walked toward the gentleman. Let me see. The gentleman's hand loosened, and the report fell onto the coffee table. The conclusion above was clearly written. According to the DNA test results, George is excluded as the biological father of Kathy. Kathy stared at those words, the triumph in her eyes instantly freezing. Impossible. She screamed, lunged forward, and snatched the report. This must be fake. You bribed the hospital. She frantically shook the piece of paper, as if she could shake the result into changing. Dad, Mom, they must have bribed the hospital. This result is fake. She pointed at Miss Molly. It's her. She's the one behind this. She's afraid of losing this family, so she paid off the hospital. Miss Molly's face was pale, but she didn't speak. Kathy then turned her spearhead toward me. And you old thing. It must have been you who arranged this. She rushed over to grab my clothes, and I took a step back. Miss Lynn, please watch your language. You all ganged up to deceive me. Kathy went completely mad, pacing back and forth in the living room, her hair disheveled. I am the daughter of the Green family. I have the jade pendant. I know all the details. How could this happen? She turned to the master and mistress, Mom and Dad. Believe me, there must be something wrong with this result. The gentleman and his wife looked at her, their eyes no longer holding the previous sympathy. Only disappointment remained. Let's run another test. Kathy suddenly thought of something, and hope reignited in her eyes. There must be some mistake. Let's do it again. I watched her go crazy with a professional butler's smile. Sigh, this family would fall apart sooner or later without me. She lunged at George, trying to grab his lapel. George took a step back, the last trace of pity in his eyes vanishing. Kathy, it's time for you to leave. Susan's voice grew even colder. Security will escort you out. Kathy looked at the two faces that had once been gentle toward her and suddenly laughed. That laughter was as piercing as the cry of a night owl. Ha ha ha, what kind of wealthy family are you? You can't even tell your own daughter apart. Serves you right for being deceived. She pointed at George's nose. You fool, you've been blind as a bat for 18 years. George's face instantly darkened. But Kathy wasn't finished yet. And you? She turned to Susan. What kind of respectable lady are you? You can't even keep an eye on a child, and you don't even realize the child is missing. Susan covered her chest, her face turning pale. George stepped forward. Enough. Kathy laughed hysterically. It hasn't even started yet. Did you know, if it weren't for that nurse's soft heart 18 years ago, your precious daughter would have already. George and Susan exchanged a glance, panic evident in their eyes. Could the mistake from 18 years ago have happened more than once? Kathy keenly noticed this detail. She looked at Molly, then at Mr. and Mrs. George. What? Afraid to test another one? Her voice carried a malicious delight. Maybe the one you've raised for 18 years is also a bastard. Molly's face instantly turned pale. She looked at her parents and noticed a hint of hesitation in their eyes. That doubtful gaze felt like a knife stabbing into her heart. Dad, Mom. Her voice was soft, trembling slightly. George wanted to say something, but the words caught in his throat. Susan lowered her head, not daring to meet her daughter's eyes. The atmosphere in the living room dropped to freezing point. Kathy watched the scene, laughing even more maniacally. At that moment, I cleared my throat softly. All eyes turned to me. I adjusted my gold-rimmed glasses, my face still wearing that professional expression. Sir, Madam, Miss Lynn is right. My words left everyone stunned. Since we've come this far, we really should resolve all doubts, sir. Madam, actually, regarding the events of 18 years ago, I have more complete information here. Kathy's makeup was already smeared from crying, George was holding the appraisal report with a pale face, and Susan was still sobbing. Molly stood to the side, her eyes vacant, as if she hadn't yet recovered from the earlier shock. I picked up the remote and pressed a few buttons toward the large home theater screen in the living room. In our line of work, some things need to be kept on record. Otherwise, it's hard to explain yourself even if you have a mouth. The screen lit up, projecting a clear surveillance video. The timestamp on the screen showed that night from 18 years ago. In the hospital nursery, a woman in a nurse's uniform sneaked in, looked around, and then swapped the babies in 2 cribs. Throughout the process, her movements were practiced, clearly premeditated. Kathy suddenly stopped crying, her eyes fixed on the screen as if she had grasped a lifeline. Did you see that? It's her. It was that nurse who switched it. Her voice trembled with excitement. I told you I'm the daughter of the Green family. She's the one who did this. George and Susan exchanged a glance, their faces filled with shock and anguish. If that's really the case, then Kathy is indeed their daughter. And Molly's face turned even paler. Sir, madam, please continue watching. Shortly after the nurse left, a young man dressed in a janitor's uniform entered the nursery. His face was clearly visible on the surveillance footage. That was me 18 years ago. I glanced around to make sure no one was watching, then skillfully swapped the 2 children back again. The entire action was clean and precise, as if I had done it countless times before. The living room was deathly quiet. Kathy's eyes widened, her mouth agape enough to fit an egg. The appraisal report in George's hand fell to the ground, making a faint sound. Susan covered her mouth, her gaze shifting back and forth between the young man on the screen and the current me. Molly stared at me blankly, as if she were seeing me for the first time. Edward. I turned off the recording and adjusted my glasses. Miss Molly, you have always been the biological daughter of the gentleman and the lady. This can't be, Kathy screamed, her voice heart-wrenching. Why did you do this? Why? I looked at her, my tone still unhurried, back when the master had just transferred me here. I happened to overhear that nurse's plan, being of low status and fearing that reporting it would alert the enemy and bring shame to the Green family. I chose the most direct approach. George's lips trembled, wanting to say something but unable to speak. Susan had already cried herself into a mess, but this time they were tears of excitement and relief. Uncle Edward. Molly suddenly rushed over and hugged me tightly. This was the first time she had lost her composure so much in front of me. I gently patted her back. Miss, I've said it before, you will always be my miss. That will never change. Kathy completely collapsed onto the floor, her face ashen. Kathy was driven away. Before she left, the lady still gave her a sum of money. Take this and start over. The lady's voice wasn't cold, but it held no warmth either. Kathy's hands trembled violently as she took the check. 500,000. This amount of money was enough for her to live a comfortable life in an ordinary place. But compared to the wealthy heiress identity she had once fantasized about, this money wasn't even enough for pocket change. She wanted to say something, but in the end, she said nothing. Dragging the suitcase, I walked out of Green's house, looking back every few steps. I stood by the window, watching her figure disappear around the street corner. A month later, the Green family held a grand banquet to celebrate Molly's 18th birthday and her coming of age. The entire living room is decorated in a resplendent and magnificent style. I heard there was a fake heiress causing trouble before. It was resolved long ago. Even a DNA test was done. I was wearing the most formal butler uniform. Shuttling back and forth in the banquet hall, halfway through the banquet, the gentleman suddenly stood up, holding his wine glass. He cleared his throat. The entire room fell silent. Today, besides celebrating Molly's coming of age, I also want to thank someone. The gentleman's gaze fell upon me. Uncle Edward, please come to the stage. I froze for a moment. This wasn't part of the plan, but it didn't matter. The most important quality for an old butler is a calm demeanor. Nevertheless, I straightened my tie and walked to the front of the stage. The gentleman bowed deeply in front of all the guests. Uncle Edward is the greatest benefactor of our Green family. The guests below the stage exchanged puzzled glances. They couldn't understand how a butler had become a benefactor, but they soon understood. The gentleman briefly recounted the events from 18 years ago. Of course, many details were omitted. He only said that I discovered the plot to switch the babies and stopped it in time. Applause broke out from the audience. I accepted the applause and then stepped aside. I continued to fulfill my duties as the butler. Sigh, this household would fall apart without me sooner or later. As the banquet was drawing to a close, Molly walked over to me with a glass of champagne in her hand. She was wearing a long white dress today, looking like a true young lady from a wealthy family. She was no longer the little girl who used to panic over doubts about her identity. Uncle Edward, she playfully blinked. Thank you so much, I smiled. Whatever it is, I will handle it for you, miss. She giggled. That puts my mind at ease. I looked at her smile and remembered what she was like when she was little. When she was 7 years old, she was tricked by a woman who claimed to be her biological mother. She almost followed the woman because of a lollipop. It was only because I noticed in time, grabbed a watermelon knife, and chased the woman for 3 blocks that I managed to stop her. At the age of 12, a female celebrity claimed to be pregnant with my husband's child. It caused a huge scandal. In the end, I found the female celebrity's real boyfriend. It turned out she wasn't pregnant at all. She just wanted to use the situation for publicity. Looking back now, the work over these years has truly been filled with simple, unadorned joy. The next day, the gentleman called me into his study. A document was placed on the table. Uncle Edward, these are 5% of the shares in the Green Group. The gentleman's expression was very serious. You saved our entire family. This is what you deserve. I looked at the document and shook my head. Sir, I'm afraid I cannot accept it. Why, my duty is to be a steward, not a shareholder. I adjusted my glasses. Guarding this home is my value. The gentleman was taken aback for a moment, then smiled wryly. I knew you'd say that. He took something else out of the drawer, a black card. You should at least want this. No spending limit, and a permanent paid vacation. I took the card. This can be kept. After all, I've been working for 30 years. I really should have some security. Forget about the vacation, I said. I'm afraid that once I leave, you won't even know how to turn on the gas. The gentleman laughed heartily. Your tongue is still as sharp as ever. After Molly started college, she often called me. The first thing she always says is, Uncle Edward, are you okay? She cares about me like a little adult. I always reply, I'm fine, you focus on your studies. She would then tell me about the interesting things that happened at school. Occasionally, I would also complain about having too much homework. Once she said, Uncle Edward, I miss you. I froze for a moment. This girl is getting better and better at acting cute. If you miss me, then study hard and don't make me worry. Okay, I'll definitely be a good student, and I'll take care of you when you're old. After hanging up the phone, I sat in the empty living room. Suddenly, I felt a bit emotional. Time really flies. That little girl has already grown up, and I am about to retire. I started organizing the work logs from the past 30 years, a thick notebook, recording all sorts of unimaginable and dramatic events, and my corresponding solutions will be passed on to my successor when the time comes. Case No. 001, handling the wife's cousin's attempt to seduce the husband. Solution, introduced her to the second son of the Wilson family next door. They are now very happy. Case No. 015, handling the incident where the husband was drugged. Solution, replaced it with vitamin effervescent tablets in advance, causing the other party's plan to fail. Event No. 037, dealing with the beautiful spy sent by Mr. Lee's business rival. Solution, introduced her to my single nephew, and they got married the following month. Looking at these records, I couldn't help but laugh. One weekend afternoon, the sunlight was just right. I was trimming the roses in the garden. This is my favorite pastime. It's very satisfying to see the flowers become neat and orderly in my hands. Uncle Edward, Molly's voice came from the doorway. She's back, and she brought someone with her. A handsome young man who seems well-mannered. But I noticed the way he looks at Molly. 3 parts fervor, 7 parts calculation. Uncle Edward, this is my classmate Lucas, Molly introduced. Lucas nodded politely to me. Hello, Uncle Edward. Molly pulled me aside and whispered, Uncle Edward, he seems to be the son of my dad's rival. I adjusted my glasses. The lenses reflected a cold light. Looks like the retirement plan will have to be postponed. Sigh. This family will fall apart sooner or later without me. I turned to face the boy and gave him a standard smile. Welcome, young master. To be continued. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see I am the true daughter of a wealthy family. On the third day of returning home, my family went bankrupt. I sold the limited edition Chanel bag that the fake daughter gave me, bought a food truck, and started selling fried rice. Then I encountered obstacles. Dad said, I won't allow my daughter to show her face in public. Mom said, night markets are full of additives. Brother said, you're undermining family unity. The fake heiress said, Dad will definitely make a comeback. Sigh, unlike me, my sister has no faith in Dad. I raised the iron ladle. You should no longer dream of a wealthy life. If we work hard together, we can definitely live an ordinary life. The first time I set up a stall at the night market to sell fried rice with eggs, I got really into it. She sold 28 bowls in a row. By the time she got home, it was already 10 p.m. Only then did she realize that today was the birthday of the fake heiress, Tiffany. As soon as she entered the door, she saw the family of 4 sitting at the dining table. Quietly watching her, my father's face was ashen, my mother sighed with despair, my brother slammed the table and yelled at me, the food has been reheated over and over again, and you finally remember to come home. If it weren't for the sake of a family reunion, and Tiffany refusing to eat first, why would we have to go hungry until now? When I left the house this morning, it seemed like Tiffany said something to me, but her voice was so soft, I didn't hear it at all. When she saw me at school, she was acting all high and mighty again. I can't be bothered to ask, everyone is hungry, that's quite embarrassing. I rubbed my hands together and chuckled. The fake daughter's tears began to fall, drop by drop. She choked up and said, brother, don't scold sister, maybe she has something important to do, something more important than celebrating my birthday. I quickly nodded, yes, very important. I'm also quite happy, let me share with everyone. Today was my first time selling fried rice at the night market, and I sold 28 bowls. Each bowl is $10. After deducting costs, the net profit is $230. Lucas was furious. Just because you were selling fried rice, you missed Tiffany's birthday. She only turned 17 once in her life. Don't you know that? I was confused. What? Is she not going to make it to 18? My mom was horrified. Those night marketplaces are full of junk food. I frowned. No way. My ingredients are very high quality. My father was exasperated. How can David's daughter show her face in public by selling fried rice? I shrugged. It's not just fried rice. Business is pretty good. I plan to fry noodles tomorrow too. Finally, someone noticed something was wrong. Tiffany pointed at my bag, tears welling up in her eyes. Sister, where is the gift I gave you when we first met? I said honestly, I sold it. Otherwise, where would I get the money to buy the food cart? I bought the cart from a second-hand platform, including the tables and chairs, and it only cost me $2,000. Tiffany burst into tears with a loud wail. Sis, the gift I gave you was Chanel, the 2025 limited edition. It's really hard to get. It symbolizes our precious friendship, and you just sold it. If our friendship is worth 15,000, it's already quite inflated. Tiffany cried and collapsed into my mom's arms. Mom, maybe I should just leave. Sister doesn't welcome me, Mom. Please don't be angry with her. The fake daughter is so fragile. It really puts me in a difficult position. I thought about it and decided to tell the truth. Sis, you're not a dollar bill, so of course not everyone is going to love you. So Tiffany cried even more pitifully. I scratched my head and sat down at the dining table. Well, it's pretty late. Shall we have a bite together? I was so busy selling fried rice tonight that I got hungry myself. And it seems like everyone forgot that Tiffany and I share the same birthday. Grabbing a bite of her cake counts as a celebration, but Lucas got worked up again. You're not allowed to eat. You made Tiffany cry like this, and you still want to eat. That's enough. One moment they complain that I don't eat with them. The next moment they complain that I do eat with them. Going back on your word. What logic is there? Raising the heir to be like this. No wonder my dad went bankrupt, finally. My dad put an end to this farce. He lifted his chin, assuming the posture of the head of the family. Come, let's talk. What is there to talk about? Nothing more than, as long as Tiffany is my daughter for a day, she will be my treasure for life. If you were even a little bit like Tiffany, I wouldn't regret taking you back. I regret it too, back then. I sold the only 2 pigs left at home to buy a plane ticket and come back to find my family, and now, look at this. The pigs at home have turned into 4. I patiently listened to my dad talk. A family should stick together and treat each other with respect, but you insist on being alone and doing your own thing. setting up a stall at the night market to sell fried rice. Where does that leave my dignity? You're not allowed to go again. I nodded. All right then. What about my living expenses? I don't understand either. Why do Tiffany and I still have to attend a prestigious high school when we're already bankrupt? Getting the tuition refunded would still be a sum of money. Sure enough, my dad was at a loss for words. He stammered as he spoke. Would I treat you unfairly? Of course I wouldn't treat you unfairly. Do you know how much your brother used to get for his allowance? 10 million a year. If you set up a stall at the night market, you wouldn't earn 10 million in 1,000 years. Sigh. Here we go again. I said with deep concern. Dad, you've been bankrupt for half a year. How much longer are you going to dwell on the days when you were rich? Stop dreaming about a life of luxury. If we work hard together, we can definitely live an ordinary life. I knew it was like talking to a brick wall, because my dad lost his temper again. Kylie, I think you've been living in poverty for too long. You have no foresight at all. From head to toe, you don't resemble anyone in our family. Indeed, I don't. Whenever the four of them sit together fantasizing about when the massive fortune will return, it's just like family. Anyway, I don't really understand why, even in such a situation, they still drive sports cars and live in mansions. I patted my pants and stood up. Well, I'm going back to study now. Tomorrow, I aim to sell 50 bowls. While selling fried rice, I still have to study. What kind of hardship is this in the world? If only I had known, I wouldn't have sold those 2 pigs from home. We have a very good relationship. However, after hearing that I was the long-lost true heiress of a wealthy family, I still resolutely decided to sell them. On the day I was found, I asked the volunteer, "Can my parents get me a household registration in Beijing?" I didn't know the volunteer was video chatting with my parents. They probably heard me ask that question. So they concluded that I was after the Miller family's power and status, and were very wary of me. But what I actually wanted to ask was just, I find studying easier now. I grew up in the mountains for over 10 years. I know better than many what poverty tastes like. If I can get into a good university and master a valuable skill, I can help them escape poverty. I returned to the Miller family with dreams. Then, I was disappointed. All 5 members of the family had to play along with Tiffany's act. It's like she has some kind of acting obsession. Everywhere is a stage for pulling and tugging. My mom arranged a bedroom for me and took the initiative to bring out the suitcase. Since my sister just got back, she should have the best room, even though I've lived in this room for so long. If my sister likes it, I'll pack up and move out right now. Just thinking that this was originally my sister's home makes me feel like an outsider. My dad just introduced me to his friend, and she broke down crying. Help, I'm so scared. I'm afraid that once my sister comes back, you won't love me anymore. What should I do to keep your love? I'm really fed up. I refuse to let my parents take me to social events, refuse their gifts, and refuse to play the role of a filial child in a harmonious family. I just want them to give me a few books, hire me a tutor, and let me peacefully prepare for the agricultural school entrance exam. But the tutor's sister has only been here for 2 days. She was invited over by Tiffany. She kept pestering her sister with all sorts of questions, just not letting me ask any. I protested to Mom, but she said, as mothers raising 2 daughters, we must treat them equally. Whatever you have, Tiffany must have too. Kylie, remember, you can never monopolize anything. Her gaze pierced through like needles. I want to say something, but I simply don't have the strength. I went back to my room, counted my remaining balance, and looked over the gifts the Miller family had given me. The big items can't be sold. Small items don't sell for much. In the end, I picked a pinkish-purple bag and took it to a second-hand store, because it looks the most like Tiffany. It annoys me. I earned 15,000, spent 10,000 on online courses, and 5,000 on a snack cart and raw materials. After all, it's not sustainable to just sit and eat without working. You have to make money grow. It's a bit tough. But making a living with my own hands makes me feel very secure. The fried rice business is even better than I imagined. On the second day, just 1 hour after opening, I sold 16 bowls. I even have repeat customers. They asked me how I fried the rice, saying it was delicious. I smiled and joked, saying I learned from a master. Of course, that wasn't true. I don't have a master. I only have a foster father. He is a village chef since I was a child. I helped him carry plates and learned just by watching. I am full of confidence and continue to toss the wok, While soliciting customers, I was also thinking about adding another item to the menu tomorrow, egg fried rice noodles. Then I heard a soft, delicate female voice. Sister, elite schools often organize so-called clubs. For example, Tiffany came to the night market with the photography team today for an interview. She's the host, if you ask me, instead of spending time on that. She should be catching up on her math. The college entrance exam doesn't test documentary making skills. With my dad's current negative assets, which are even more than Chengdu's, there's no way he can send her abroad for studies. I raised my shovel. Egg fried rice, egg fried noodles, 10 yuan a bowl. How many do you want? The little follower next to Tiffany also recognized me. She said, we want 10 bowls, 3 without scallions, 3 without rice, 3 without eggs. I get it. I silently finished frying. The little follower indeed revealed a sinister smile. Ah, no more. Tiffany also curled the corner of her mouth. What can I do? My friend just has a small appetite. Don't be angry, sis. This is just ridiculous. I pointed to the phone nearby. I'm live streaming. Are you sure you want to renege on your debt? The two girls' faces turned purple. The barrage of comments was already cursing on my behalf. Where did these idiots come from? Just messing with people. I know her. Her dad is my dad's colleague, so uncivilized. People like them care about saving face even when they have nothing in their pockets, so the two of them fled in a panic after scanning the code. Only 10 steaming plates of fried rice remained. I was about to take them to feed the stray dogs. Suddenly, a hand reached out from behind and took one without scallions. The person was very young, dressed in trendy clothes, with high cheekbones and dark, deep-set eyes. I've already cooked it all. It would be a waste to throw it away. I'll buy one portion. This person has a very friendly attitude. The smile in their eyes is so full it almost overflows. But I shook my head firmly. One item cannot be sold twice. We must have integrity. I'll give it to you. This customer praised my fried rice for being delicious. Then he started bringing friends to eat here every other day. Soon, my stall was filled with young and attractive men and women. They even posted short videos. My stall became an instant hit. A massive wave of traffic arrived. I prepared ingredients for 300 bowls, rolling up my sleeves, ready to go all out, but I truly never expected that this esteemed guest would be Andy, commonly known as the Crown Prince of the Beijing Circle, also Tiffany's fiancé, to be precise. It was a marriage of convenience, but one that Tiffany actively pursued on her own. After the Miller family went bankrupt, the engagement was called off. But Tiffany still seems to have lingering feelings for Andy. Anyway, that night, she came to me crying again. Sister, if there's something about me you don't like, I can change. But why did you have to take away Andy's attention from me? That is my most precious thing. I looked her up and down, then curled my lip. If you could change everything I don't like about you, then you should just be reborn. My words aren't that harsh, are they? Why does Tiffany always cry? Is it because her tear threshold is too low, or her misfortune threshold is too high? I drove her away with disgust. Miss, could you please stop crying? It's bad luck for business. You've already cried your dad into bankruptcy, and now you want to cry me into bankruptcy too. I run a small business. It's not easy, given Tiffany's intelligence. She probably really doesn't understand. Anyway, she's not leaving. She was standing not far away, crying. I couldn't be bothered to deal with her. Focusing all my energy on frying the rice, sweating profusely. But how could I forget that my brother is a total siscon, and an abundance of material comforts had prematurely filled his spiritual world. To put it simply, he is a simple person. Before long, Lucas arrived. He surrounded my stall with a few of his buddies, looking fierce and aggressive. Kylie, apologize to Tiffany, otherwise I'll make sure your stall never opens again. Damn it, I can't stand pretentious people, please. I have the strength of someone who has fed pigs, but I still need to save my energy to cook fried rice. I beckoned Lucas over with a finger and whispered in his ear, if you dare to lay a hand on me, I will dare to scream. What are you shouting for? Calling you a broke loser right now. Lucas instantly deflated. I pointed at the phone that was currently live streaming. There are over 1,000 people in my live stream. Do you think someone might recognize you if I call you out? After the Miller family went bankrupt, the first to leave was the gardener. Just a few days of continuous rain, and the plants in the garden started growing wildly. Now, passing by the garden late at night feels quite eerie. Then the chef left. My father used to enjoy drinking red wine and tasting caviar. My mother liked eating all kinds of green leafy vegetables, even if only one person was eating at home. They could set out over 20 plates and bowls, but now, if you want to eat something, you have to make it yourself. So my parents lost 10 pounds in just 1 month. They even delayed paying the housekeeper's wages, even if it meant secretly selling hidden paintings, jewelry, or mortgaging the property. They still had to buy the latest clothes for themselves and their children. To make them look decent and glamorous, what's the difference between this and covering one's ears to steal a bell? Threatened by me, Lucas really backed down, but Tiffany timidly spoke up from behind. Forget it, brother, after all, you and your sister are the real siblings. If I cause any unhappiness between you, I would blame myself. Truly, what brand of trash bag is she? So good at pretending. But Lucas really believed it. He gritted his teeth and said, no one is allowed to bully my sister. Not even my other sister, who acknowledged him, who admitted it. I took a deep breath and calmly said, both of you, I can write you a letter of commitment. I never considered you family before, and I won't in the future. So if you continue to behave in ways that go beyond the bounds of normal human conduct, I will call the police. But Lucas is not a normal human being. He picked up the cabbage basket on my cutting board and threw it to the ground with a cold laugh. Go ahead and report it. See if anyone cares about you. Those 4 underlings also seemed to have received the command, scrambling to overturn my pot and spill my seasonings. The stall was in complete disarray. All my hard work over the past half-month had gone to waste. I calmly watched Lucas lose his mind. The kitchen knife in hand was gripped tighter and tighter. I used to think that reasoning with unreasonable people was unreasonable in itself. Since I couldn't resort to violence, I might as well ignore them. But why can't we fight and kill? I have to teach them a lesson. Tiffany was the first to realize something was wrong. She shouted, brother, be careful. But I had already stepped forward and slashed Lucas's shoulder with a single strike, without hesitation, without mercy. In an instant, blood splattered everywhere. Lucas's snow-white hoodie was completely stained red. He was trembling all over as he looked at me. Kylie, how dare you? Tiffany also rushed over, pointing a trembling finger at me. He is your brother. I rubbed my ears and looked at her expressionlessly. Don't shout, you're involved too. I also pretended to be cool for once, didn't manage to cut Tiffany. A bit of a pity. Tiffany faced the officer, tears streaming down her face like pear blossoms in the rain. She hacked my brother. She did it on purpose. I was scared to death. I smiled and said, you forgot to mention one thing. We are family. Family members fighting each other. How can that be called intentional harm? I looked at the officer and said, right, I only attacked my brother, so the social danger is very low. My parents rushed to the hospital as quickly as possible. As you can imagine, they were absolutely furious. I almost took Tiffany's advice and ended up in prison for life. However, Lucas's injury only looked scary, but it wasn't actually serious. It's only right. I've slaughtered pigs before, so I have a feel for it. I was only locked up for an hour before being released. The person who picked me up definitely wasn't from the Miller family. Andy, he's actually quite a good person. Not only did he argue strongly, but he also insisted that I acted in self-defense. He even helped me fix the sign of the snack cart that had been smashed as much as possible. He also said he was looking forward to me setting up my stall tomorrow. Andy was still wearing that white shirt, still with a faint smile. It reminds one of green bamboo, or pine and cypress trees. Even if I were slow-witted, I would have sensed something was off. Why does Andy like my egg fried rice so much? Was it because he just ended a low-carb diet, or have you grown tired of fine dining and want to experience street food? It can't be that you've taken a liking to me. Seeing me lost in thought, Andy smiled and explained, I just got back from London. I said, got it. You just got back from exile. I was thinking about stopping work. But for my loyal customers, I have to keep going, but I don't have to go back to the Miller family. They finally kicked me out. My suitcase was placed outside the villa. My mom said, there's a small house in the family. You can move in. We did our best, but you're just too unreasonable. My dad said, however, if you can sincerely apologize, you might regain our trust. I said, absolutely not. I will do everything in my power not to regain your trust, and so I moved into the Miller family's small house. I woke up early to chop vegetables, went to school during the day, and fried rice at night. Very fulfilling, but I still had to run into Tiffany at school, no matter how much the news was suppressed. The Miller family's bankruptcy was no secret. the number of friends surrounding Tiffany had already dwindled significantly. The suitors have collectively gone extinct. I really can't figure out why Tiffany hasn't noticed. She still acts as proud as a peacock. Never mind, let her be. Private schools really do everything except studying. They organized a garden party. Everyone signed up to sell affordable luxury accessories, fan-themed scented candles, and aesthetically pleasing desserts. The most ordinary option was to be a coffee master, but I happily held up the banner, fried rice with egg, 50 per bowl. At first, no one showed interest, but Andy helped me promote it. He posted a picture of my food truck sign with the caption, "The biggest surprise of the year." Andy also attended this prestigious school and still had the same popularity from back in the day. Thanks to him, my food truck soon had a long line of customers. At the busiest time, I saw Tiffany walking past my stall with a dark expression. Today's income, $3,500, after deducting costs, $3,100 remains. From this perspective, the Miller family made a wise decision by sending me to a prestigious school. But when I got home, I was dumbfounded. My dad, my mom, and my brother were all standing in the living room. This 120 square meter apartment suddenly felt crowded. I asked, "What are you all doing here?" Lucas didn't snap at me for the first time. Instead, he silently averted his gaze. It turned out he had squandered the last bit of money in the house. The Miller family's villa was repossessed by the bank. Now they can only squeeze in with me. While squeezing, I reminisced. This house was originally bought for the driver to live in. I didn't say anything and used the remaining ingredients to make myself a bowl of egg fried rice. The aroma of scallions wafted through the air. Everyone suddenly fell silent. Out of politeness, I asked my mom, "Would you like some?" She licked her lips and said firmly, "No, you must have added some additives, then go hungry." But she got anxious again. If it were Tiffany, she would definitely urge me to eat. "Kylie, have you ever thought about why I don't like you?" I wolfed down the egg fried rice and mumbled, "Why should I think about that? Do you think my life isn't hard enough? No one says a mother has to love her biological daughter. I understand you. By the same logic, a biological daughter doesn't have to love her mother either." But my mother was unhappy again. She said, "Not even craving maternal love? Kylie, you're a devil." She can choose not to give it, but I cannot refuse it. What kind of robber's logic is this? But I really don't have the mind to argue with her about this. I was just thinking, the financial situation at home is terrible. Once the creditors come to take this house, what should I do? I was calculating when Tiffany came back. She brought back a bunch of fresh green leafy vegetables for my mom and said, "Mom, I know you're trying to lose weight." So my mom started again, "Look at Tiffany, and then look at you, reject PUA." I turned around and went back to my room. Fortunately, I had the foresight to bring the snack cart in as well. Tiffany is a neat freak, so she definitely won't stay with me. As for how 4 people will share the remaining 2 rooms, I don't need to worry about that, but those people just wouldn't stop causing trouble. A week later, my mom said we needed to have a family meeting. Based on my understanding of them, this was just another way to mess with me. Sure enough, the moment my dad opened his mouth, it was a critical hit. "Mom and Dad have raised you all these years. Even if there's no credit, there's been hard work. Starting today, all of you children must contribute to the household expenses." Fingers unconsciously dug into the palm. The air felt heavy, as if it were about to explode. But I didn't expect Lucas to be the first to speak. "I pay $10,000 a month. And I also pay $10,000 for Tiffany." Tiffany gratefully tugged at the corner of Lucas's clothes. I just remembered, yesterday I overheard Lucas talking on the phone with a friend. Last year, he received $3 million in investment for a bar, and now it's starting to pay dividends. My dad patted Lucas on the shoulder approvingly. Then he looked at me. "I heard from Tiffany that your fried rice with eggs is quite profitable. Kylie, you take $10,000 too." A bowl of egg fried rice costs $10. It earns $8 per bowl. To save up $10,000, I need to sell 250 bowls, although, following Andy's suggestion, I have added high-profit items like grilled sausages and drinks. Live streaming also brings in a bit of income, but the money earned is hard-earned. I was there diligently frying rice, braving the wind and rain. My parents just open their mouths and take away more than half, unless I'm crazy. My mom no longer hires chefs or nannies now, and she orders a salad for 128 yuan. I always thought this kind of salad would only be sold to people in Shanghai. I just want to make sure I have a school to attend and books to read, so that in the future, I can return to the mountains and get rich by raising pigs. Is this wish too difficult? Why are there so many obstacles in front of me? I slammed the table and said, enough, I'll leave. Is that okay? My dad also slammed the table. Enough from you, we all have our difficulties. Why can't you just endure it? I nodded. Who wants to endure it? I'm not a bastard, Tiffany screamed. Kylie, how can you be so selfish? This is mom and dad's test for you. A family should unite and overcome difficulties together. Dad has talent, ability, and friends. Sooner or later, he will make a comeback. Why don't you believe in Dad? Is he trustworthy? Good thing I already found a place to live. I knew it was right to prepare for a rainy day, but I miscalculated. The landlord hasn't vacated the house yet. No matter how much I tried to persuade them, they only agreed to let me move in tomorrow night. What else could I do? I dragged the snack cart, slowly making my way through this unfamiliar city. It was already late autumn. The yellow ginkgo leaves fall with the wind. I think, this is a liberated leaf. It can calmly welcome the arrival of its next life. I stared at the leaf for a long time. And then I received a message from Andy. Why haven't you set up your stall yet? Suddenly, I was overwhelmed with sorrow, unable to hold back the damn tears. Then a pair of hands handed me a tissue. Andy looked flustered. I just happened to see you pushing the cart and thought I'd crack a joke. Why are you crying? I wiped away my tears and calmly explained to Andy that I had nowhere to go for the night, considering he probably owned a lot of properties. I asked if I could borrow a place to stay for the night. Eyes locked, I emphasized, just one night. He smiled and said, sure, just one bowl. Andy took me to his apartment. The food cart was pushed into the underground garage, parked side by side with his Maserati. I used the king crab legs from the fridge to fry Andy the most expensive bowl of rice I've ever made. The golden rice was placed into the meal tray. Andy smiled and asked me, has anyone ever told you that you're adorable? My heartstrings trembled slowly. I lowered my gaze. Yes, there are many people. Actually, I lied. Not many people. My adoptive mother passed away shortly after I was born. My adoptive father quickly remarried. His wife once said I was cute, but she gave birth to a son and a daughter. It seems I then became her little slave, having to do everything. But the stepmother still ran away, driven away by my adoptive father. I've always considered her my real mother. Whenever my adoptive father hit her, I would always step in to stop him, even though when my adoptive father hit me, she just stood by and watched. The day my stepmother left, she held my younger brother's hand with one hand and my younger sister's hand with the other. I asked her if she could take me with her, but she said she only had two hands. What a lame excuse. Later, I met a very good desk mate. He tutored me, told me jokes, and said my smile was sweet. In a moment of impulse, I told him about being beaten. At that moment, I was truly impulsive and cried bitterly, so it's no wonder a teenage boy would fall silent. Not long after, he gradually distanced himself from me. Later, my adoptive father got drunk and was hit by a car and died. I was taking an exam at school when I was suddenly told to go identify someone. I hurriedly got on my bike and rushed to the hospital. The sun slowly set, and the road was dark and cold. I was a little scared. I comforted myself, telling myself not to be afraid. When the sun goes down, there is still moonlight. I used my adoptive father's death compensation to buy 2 piglets. Later, the piglets grew into big pigs. Later still, I sold the pigs and returned to the Miller family. This journey has been full of stumbles and struggles, but I've come a long way. In the future, more people will surely like me and call me cute. I made the decision myself to drop out of school. The elite school teaches content that isn't tested in the college entrance exam every day. It's better for me to study on my own. My grades are much better than before, but the tutor sister said that to get into the best agricultural school in China, I need to work a little harder. During that time, my life was very routine. Study, cook fried rice. Cook fried rice, study. Sometimes I run into Andy at the stall. He said regretfully, Kylie, you've lost weight, but I like every day that can be predicted. After the college entrance exam, I scored 150 points above the first-tier cutoff line. The tutoring sister helped me fill out my college applications, and she asked me, are you really sure about applying for animal science? If you choose other popular majors, your score would be less wasted. But studying a subject I don't like would be the real waste. I happily applied for animal science. As expected, I was admitted. I have enough savings to cover my tuition. What more could I want? Oh, my mom contacted me. She said she wants to throw me a college celebration banquet at the best hotel in the city. All your dad's business friends will be there. I looked helpless. Mrs. Miller, you should spend less money. Life isn't meant to be lived like this. But she said, what do you know? Friends bring friends, and money will come. Oh, by the way, I heard you scored 640 points. Truly my DNA. Which university did you apply to? I said, I'm going to the top agricultural school in the country to learn how to raise pigs. My mother screamed hysterically. Why are you learning this? Do you have any semblance of a girl? Why don't you study art, philosophy, or languages? If only Tiffany had this score. It's such a waste on you. I lazily listened for a long time. Then why can't she get the same score as me? Is it because she's stupid? My mother's words became even uglier. Kylie, what else can you do besides making me angry? Who would love a child like you? Look at how unimpressive you are. If I had known you'd turn out like this, I shouldn't have bothered in the first place. I was still lazily indifferent. Can you only gain a sense of superiority by belittling me? Then you're pathetic. That being said, I'm still very curious about what Tiffany will do in the future. For over a decade, the Miller family has been single-mindedly grooming her to become a socialite, learning horseback riding, ballet, and cello. Suddenly, the funding was cut off. Could she possibly accept it willingly? I quickly found out the answer. During this time, my egg fried rice became incredibly popular, and my account gained 1 million followers. My fans affectionately call me the pretty girl who makes fried rice. I even have imitators who wear the same clothes as me and sell fried rice just like I do, but they don't get as much traffic as I do. There are also people who have approached me for collaborations, saying they can package me as an internet celebrity or turn my fried rice stall into a chain store. I thought about it and rejected the first option. I also rejected the second one. Do I not know whether I'm cut out for it or not? Although I do believe I'm far more capable than my father. But doing business isn't that simple. For ordinary people, the best way to make money is not to think about making money. Besides, in 2 months, I'll be going to college. How could I possibly have time to open a shop? But I didn't expect that right after I rejected him. The guy in the floral shirt started calling to curse at me. What's going on? Your sister said she doesn't agree. Did you even talk it through with her properly? Lucas's confused voice came through the phone. No. I sent her a text message. This guy is quite clever. Knowing that I blocked him on WeChat, he sent a text message. Why doesn't he consider that I could also block his number? Before long, Lucas came to find me. He said with deep regret, Kylie, why did you turn down such a great opportunity? Don't worry about lacking experience. Both my dad and I have plenty of experience and will help guide you. When others seize the opportunity and make money, don't regret it. Seeing that I remained unmoved, he cleared his throat again and softened his tone. What happened in the past was my fault. I favored Tiffany and made you suffer, but this opportunity is truly important for our family. Dad is already over 50, and we need to share his burdens. Whether he can make a comeback depends on you and me, I said. Are you willing to do anything to get me to agree? Lucas was overjoyed. I said, then slap yourself a few times, and make it loud. Lucas half-believingly hit it twice. I said, hit it again. He suddenly became clear-headed. Kylie, are you messing with me? I said, is there even a need to think about it? Lucas yelled, I'm going to make sure your stall can't stay open. I said, who said I'm going to keep running a stall? My college entrance exam scores have already proven my intelligence. Now I can earn money by tutoring. The tutoring sister who mentored me back then introduced me to quite a few clients. Earning $200 per hour, one of these clients lived right across from the Miller family. The soundproofing in this residential area is average, so I heard the entire process of their argument. Tiffany's crying was, as always, pitiful and endearing. Mom, I'm not asking for much, just $3 million. You can sell this house and a few pieces of jewelry to get it. Why did you all send my brother abroad to study back then? But not me. But all that responded to her was my mother's long sigh. If you were sensible, you shouldn't be asking for these things. Our family is no longer what it used to be. Although it's regrettable, Tiffany, you should also start connecting with the few potential partners your parents have arranged for you as soon as possible. Tiffany immediately became anxious. Mom, I'm only 18, and you want to marry me off to a 40-year-old man who's been divorced. Am I not your daughter? After an awkward silence, my mother forced a dry laugh. Do you think you are? My biological daughter is so capable, even without our financial support. she managed to get into a first-tier university by selling fried rice. If you were even a little bit like her, Tiffany, I wouldn't regret raising you all these years. Tiffany was stunned. Mom, I've called you Mom for 18 years, but my mother said, then shouldn't you be grateful, if it weren't for the mix-up back then? Where would you have gotten these 18 years of wealth and luxury? I heard the sound of cups, plates, and porcelain shattering. Tiffany's voice also took on a sharp, crumbling edge. She said, I will make you regret this. When Tiffany rushed out, she ran straight into me who had just finished class. She said fiercely, Kylie, don't think that just because Mom is favoring you now, you can securely hold the position of the family's young lady. One day, you'll watch Mom and Dad cry over the choice they made today, and you, just like me, will end up with nothing. You're acting with so much effort. I sincerely said, Sister Tiffany, actually, being able to act so intensely in front of me is a blessing for you, but I don't think you performed very well. However, you don't need to apologize for it. I genuinely think so, after all. Tiffany's understanding is quite limited. What she thought I valued, I actually regarded as worthless. Anyway, no matter how much she stirs up trouble, it can't affect me anymore. I still have to hurry to my next tutoring job. Near the end of summer vacation, the balance in my bank account reached $30,000. I finally agreed to Andy's invitation. We went to the amusement park, watched the sunset at a restaurant, and took a walk by the river. As we were about to part, Andy asked me, Kylie, what are you thinking about? You've been looking preoccupied all along, and I didn't want to call you out on it. I smiled but didn't tell him that I thought dating him would be expensive. That's why I saved up for a long time, planning to go Dutch, but the scenario I had anticipated finally arrived. Andy suddenly grabbed my hand. Kylie, will you be my girlfriend? Do you agree? My heart felt a tingling sensation. It was a feeling of excitement I had never experienced before. You are beautiful, lovely, and very special. You would probably learn the manners and speech of our circle very quickly. His eyes seemed to shimmer with a flowing light, but the string in my heart snapped with a ding. I think I actually quite like Andy, but stopping here is also good, at least up to this point. He finds me interesting, and I find him friendly. I smiled and waved my hand. Forget it. I'll be going back to the mountains to raise pigs sooner or later. So I don't want to do a long-distance relationship. A complex undercurrent surged deep in Andy's eyes, but his upbringing quickly brought a smile to his face. Is that so? I respect your opinion. Andy leaned over and hugged me. My eyes began to feel a bit dry. His heartbeat was more intense than before. Great. I'm 18 now too. Adult farewells should be dignified and proper. One early autumn morning, I stepped onto the agricultural school I had always dreamed of, happily giving injections to the little rabbits and weaning the calves. 4 years later, I graduated on schedule and returned to the mountains. I rented a hill and started building sheds to raise pigs. The piglets grew plump and strong, quickly attracting nearby farmers to learn the techniques. Gradually, I acquired several mountains. The business also expanded from solely raising pigs to pork processing and e-commerce sales. Occasionally, I would go live on streams, connecting with farmers who encountered issues to help them improve their pigsties. People affectionately call me the beautiful girl who raises pigs. On the day the first batch of cured meat hit the market, I was in a rare mood to cook and made myself a bowl of fried rice. The rice grains were distinct and separate, with the savory aroma of the cured meat perfectly balanced, neither too strong nor too light. The scrambled egg pieces were golden yellow, like a scattering of fine sunlight. No wonder he likes it. I froze for a moment, suddenly feeling someone behind me. Then I saw my parents. They have truly aged. He looks like a clean homeless person. We haven't been in touch for so many years. I don't know how they managed to find me. I politely asked my parents what they were here for, but they just smiled even more warmly. I've never seen the place where you grew up, so I'm here to see it now. Oh, right. I bought the plane ticket myself back then. I moved aside, ignored them, and went on eating by myself. But they sat down next to me and started chattering away. Lucas is a man of action, investing his money and persisting through repeated failures. After completely depleting his family's wealth, he actually dared to commit fraud. He was sentenced to 5 years and will be released next year. What about Tiffany? My mother cried out with heart-wrenching sobs. It was Tiffany's sugar daddy who set a trap and had him sent in. I knelt down and begged her to show mercy, but she refused. What's the use of raising her for over a decade? From now on, even if she dies out there, I won't shed a single tear. What a thing to say. as if her tears were very precious. My parents must have traveled a long way and were a bit tired. My mother covered her lower abdomen and looked at me. Kylie, I'm hungry. Could you give me a bowl of your fried rice? I've never had your fried rice before. Her voice carried an eager, ingratiating tone. But I turned and closed the kitchen door. Sorry, but no. My father's voice suddenly rose sharply. Kylie, we rushed over from Beijing early in the morning. It took us over 10 hours, and you're giving us this dead face. Back then, your mother carried you for 10 months and went through so much hardship to give birth to you, and now you won't even give her a bite to eat. Has your conscience been eaten by dogs? But I'm not stupid. I've clearly been hurt all along. But for that little bit of love, I keep forgiving and giving chances. What does it mean to have one's conscience eaten by a dog? I really do have a dog. With a whistle from me, 3 big dogs came running out, barking loudly, and surrounded my parents. I said with a smile, try saying that again. They fled in panic. Before leaving, they threw out a sentence. Kylie, you will regret this. But she didn't know that I had already changed my name. Now called Victoria, making kites is boring. I'm more suited to being a towering mountain. Besides, regret is just self-consolation for the weak. I am no longer. I sat down, quietly watching the groups of piglets frolic in the sunlight. I think that those who bravely end things will be rewarded with a new beginning. I am very brave. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.